Isang mapagpalang araw sa ating lahat. My name is Guileño ng PS Criminology 1C ng Makati Science Technological Institute, First Year College. And we will now discuss the 5 nationalities that influences or affects the culture of the Filipinos in the country of the Philippines. As I said earlier, there were 5 given specific nationalities that were affects the culture of the Filipinos. So we do have Spanish influence, American influence, and Japanese influence, and Chinese, and lastly Korean. So these given 5 nationalities were the experience brought by our other nationalities to our country has disadvantages, but most likely advantages. We don't just face this matter, but we also adapt their beliefs and continue doing these practices until present. So, although some of these nationalities made a disturbing history to our past ancestors, we cannot deny that it leave a positive remark and make our history much better, braver, stronger, and that's what make us Filipinos unique. So we will now proceed to the other nationalities and their influences to our Filipino culture. So first, we have a Spanish influence that the religion affects, where Filipinos at home set up altars in the Hispanic tradition adorned with the Catholic images, flowers, and candles. In values, women must be quiet and submissive towards men, presently known as Maria Clara perception. In terms of education, they establishes Catholic-run schools. Friars and nuns were the teacher. While in the American influence, we adapt the religious freedom, where when the United States took over the Philippines, the people began to free to join whatever religion they wanted. So in terms of English language, during this time, English began to taught in schools, and this is the language that the teachers would use even today. Clothing, here are belts, suspenders, polo shirts, etc. While in food, hamburgers, sandwiches, oatmeal, etc. were adapted by the Filipino. We will now discuss how things changed during the Japanese rule over the Philippines. So first, a strong curfew was enforced. Second, Japanese currency was introduced. Third, barangays were cut in half. And lastly, a military government was implemented. To Chinese or China. The trade with China was the beginning of a major influence and contribution within the Filipino culture. One major influence that the Chinese contribute within the culture was culinary arts. Some culinary techniques that the Filipinos were taught include salted dishes, rice cakes, and noodle dishes like pancit. For Korean culture didn't really overpower the original culture of the Filipinos. Instead, Hallyu's influence brought great impact to the Filipinos that through their adaptation of Korean culture, Filipino culture was developed and enhanced in other aspects of Filipinos' way of living. So that's it. Thank you for listening.